Board of Supervisors, March 24th, 2026 at 9 a.m. Public notice is hereby given that the Webster County Board of Supervisors, in addition to the open meeting, will hold an electronic meeting at the following time and place, Tuesday, March 24th, 2026 at 9 a.m. The Board of Supervisors will meet in session on the above date with the following members present: Thode, Cochran, Conrad, Montgomery, absent, Austin, Hayek. I'll call the meeting to order. Second, Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Item 3, hearing on the proposed property tax levy for fiscal year 2027.
Have to open the meeting. You have to open the hearing.
I'll open up the public hearing. At this time, I'll open up the public hearing for any comments. Shauna, do you have anything you'd
No written
like to?
All right, Crystal Lloyd, Webster County Budget and Finance Director. Just to let everyone know, our county rates have gone down for residential. There is a slight increase for commercial, but the residential percent change for urban taxpayers is going to be -2, or it's a decrease of 2.37%. Rural is a decrease of 1.76%. The commercial property is an increase for urban of 4.97% and rural for 5.62%.
Do you have any questions?
I have you come up to the mic, sorry.
Yeah, so it's recorded.
Say the right meeting, but I just want to know, does the schools have a range they can increase? They've Holst, Blair, Iowa, good enough. Do the schools have a percentage they can increase every year, or do you know?
Don't know the
Is there,
school
is there a range?
information. That's all on
Okay.
schools and what they do.
All right, that's all I wanted to know.
Anybody else have any comments?
My name is Shirley Trent. I live in 2527 22nd Avenue North. When I first started paying taxes in Fort Dodge, I think I was paying $800 a year. And now it's over twice as much. That's a heck of a lot for somebody that's retired and living on retirement income. Bottom line. My beef, I suppose, has to do with both the city and the county. We're paying taxes and we don't have ambulance service that goes out of Webster County. That's wrong. I was about dead and they had to get an ambulance from someplace else, Eldora, I think it was, to take me to Des Moines. Why can't the ambulance service go outside of Webster County? If we're paying taxes on this. Why can't the ambulance go out of Webster County? I want an answer.
Well, the ambulances were going out of Webster County from Fort Dodge.
Yeah,
And then they stopped. I'm assuming this probably happened in the evening.
Yeah.
In the evening, ambulance service usually at that point was running from, I'd say 8 in the morning until 11 at night. They were still running the ambulance, but they weren't going out of town at that time. We as most of you probably know, I was a police officer a while, and one of our officers needed to be transported to Iowa City. And we could not get an ambulance out of Fort Dodge to do that till the next morning. So it'd been the next morning, or they had to call out either Des Moines or somewhere else to get it. At night, they kind of shut that down because they don't have enough to cover the city and surrounding areas around Fort Dodge where they're required to. So that was a Fort Dodge decision, not a Webster County decision.
I need to go to the city for this.
That is correct when it comes to that one. That absolutely correct. And right now, I think they've contracted with Unity Point is contracted with Humboldt and with I think they've been using Otho and a couple of the other ones periodically at this point of the ball game. But as far as their policy and decision making, that's the city of Fort Dodge.
And I could chime in on a positive note in terms of essential services such as ambulance services. Of course, last year, the voters of Webster County passed a 75 cents per $1,000 of value specifically to be allocated to ambulance services inside the county. So there's an additional pot of funding now that could allow the city and the surrounding areas to provide additional services. Now, whether that includes service in the evenings outside of the county, they at least have additional funding that could make that a possibility, but you'd have to discuss that with the city on what their exact plans are. But there's more funding now available to them that would allow them possibly more resources they wouldn't have had.
Shirley, hi. Nice to see you. I think as far as your taxes with the city and as far as ambulance service, those are both city related questions. So I think your best bet is to get the most accurate information in regards to ambulance service is to go to the city specifically. They can provide you exact information on that. The Fort Dodge Fire and the ambulance service is funded and goes through the city. And so they'll give you the most accurate information. I would happily speculate on what the issue was, but it would just be me speculating. So I would recommend either going to a city council meeting and asking that question or emailing or asking either the city manager, David Fierk, or someone from the Fort Dodge Fire to answer that question. Also, as far as taxes are concerned, I understand your frustration with the taxes going up. I can't, again, speak on the city's behalf on what their levy rate is, but I can say that for the past few years, the county levy, which is the percentage that we take for taxes, has gone down. And so we are trying everything that we can to lower the taxes in that regard. That said, the percentage has gone down, but say the value of your home may have gone up. So it's going to feel like the taxes themselves are going up. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there, but we're doing all that we can to make sure that you're not feeling that sort of tax pain. But so we're doing what we can, Shirley.
Other thing, speaking to your state representatives, I know they've been discussing in the legislature certain age caps for homeowners at potentially eliminating or drastically reducing. I think they're talking about that this session. So I'd encourage you to talk to your state representatives about that and give your full-throated support for, eliminating that at a certain age for homeowners who are on fixed incomes.
That's a great point, Shirley. There's a specific bill in the Senate, I believe, that eliminates the residential rollback, and that could affect seniors who own their own homes. So you could talk to Senator Kreinbrink. I think I know that he's aware of that in that bill specifically. So you could just say, that's going to affect us. That's not happening right now, but it could if that bill passes. So just to be aware of that. That's a great point, Darren. Thanks, Shirley.
Anybody else have any comments?
Hi, so my name is Lee Tran from 1531 Cardinal Avenue. own a storage business, but with she saying that the property of the commercial is increasing 4%. I mean, that's just crazy. On one property alone, you guys have raised my property tax in 2025 by 40%. It went from 40,000 to 65,000. So just paying taxes alone, from property tax to sales tax, is literally like 120,000. So how can a commercial survive with just 60, 70,000 in property tax? It's literally more than double of all my apartments and my houses combined. I mean, I even had to borrow to pay property tax. I don't even understand how it increased to 50% from 30,000 to 50,000 in just one side of the property. So I don't understand why, I get it, residential is decreasing, but commercial is you guys are increasing by another 4%. It's what, do I end up paying 80,000 property tax alone? I don't understand from just, you don't even make the money to even pay the property tax. So that's my concern in this, because you guys have increased almost every 2 years for my property tax. So I don't know what to do, to be honest with you, except for complain, but I don't think you guys can do anything about it because the commercials keeps increasing. So why does someone want to own commercials if property tax keep increasing in Webster County and the Fort Dodge? That's my concern.
Would suggest that you go and discuss this with the assessor. Did you have an
Yes, I
opportunity?
did. Yes, I did. I came in and I showed them all these paperwork and they said they'll relook at it again, but nothing is being done
Make sure
really.
you do it during the appeal process, because once that passes, you're pretty much stuck with where you're at. So make sure you get the dates from them.
April 2nd to April 25th is when those have to be filed. And it's a fairly simple form to fill out.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that almost every year.
Then it goes, and of course, we're here about the percentage of those valuations. So that's actually the assessor's office that runs through getting the evaluations on the property done. So they're actually two separate steps. This board doesn't have any say in how your property's valued. But yes, you certainly should talk to the assessor, regardless of, unless they give you exactly what you want. You have the right to file that appeal between April 2nd and April 25th. Then that goes to our board of review, which is a board of real estate agents and lenders and people who have knowledge in the field of market values.
Yeah.
Right. So they'll put a fresh set of eyes on it. And if you don't agree with them, you have further rights of appeal to a place in Des Moines called the Property Assessment Appeal Board. Okay. So you have options to try to challenge.
Okay.
Okay. Mhm.
Daphne Wilworth from Vincent, and kind of bumping off that guy's point. Our property values, and I got online this morning, from 2021 to 2026, the assessed value of our home went up 57.5%. When I Google through Chat GPT what the normal appreciation rates for real estate in Iowa, it's 5.5% for the last 10 years and 3.6% since 2020. And I realize you can challenge it through the assessor. But then yesterday, I guess another question I have is, we got a valuation notice that Vanguard Appraisals Incorporated of Cedar Rapids was contracted to reappraise all ag dwelling and rural residential classes of property in Webster County as of 1/1/2026. And again, our taxes or the assessed value went up 17%. So I'm questioning, if the state of Iowa, the real estate in Iowa can only go up. Is there a law? This says the average is 5.5% over the last 10 years, but yet ours has gone up 50 to 60% over the last 6 years. And I just don't understand. I don't understand. And I know you can challenge, but you're not going to get anywhere with that.
Not necessarily. I wouldn't, I mean, they don't just rubber stamp what was done.
Well, and Okay, and another point I have is the assessed value of your property goes up, and that's fine if you're going to sell it. But if you don't ever sell anything and you have it in life estate, it doesn't do us any good. And I know we have to pay our fair share of taxes to maintain our roads and, pay salaries. I get that. But at some point between property taxes and insurance, it's like that gentleman said, we sold our rentals because we would have to jack the rent so high. I didn't feel right about charging people that much because we couldn't save enough in case the furnace went out of the rental. So then I mean, I'm just expressing concerns that I think a lot of us have. And I don't understand how it can go, your assessed value can go up that much and you get taxed on that, but yet you're not ever going to sell it.
I can tell you that the Vanguard didn't look at what your history was, probably. They went out and looked at comparable sales in your area and they did their just straight evaluation. I suppose the argument would be your actual market value probably didn't go up that much. Their argument, I would guess, would be you were probably underassessed historically. And then they had Vanguard as experts go out and send out a number that they think is the fair market value. I feel you. I went up 56% last year to this year.
Yeah.
In 1 year. So I understand what you're saying, and it's shocking. I got my mail yesterday.
So this had that at the top of this letter, but nobody signed it. Nobody signed this letter that we got, and I'm sure everybody in Webster County probably got one. But nobody signed that. So who do we hold accountable? And you said the assessor, but who's over the assessor? Because they're just like, so I guess I need to research how we
Our conference board.
fight back against it.
Collective of local mayors. The board there's basically 3 entities that get to vote on it. The Board of Supervisors has representation, the school board, or the school has representation, and then a collective of local incorporated towns have a voice in that board that oversees the assessor's office. And then the assessor outsource some of these valuations to a very well-respected company, Vanguard Appraisals. They're known throughout the state.
Sure.
So
Yeah, I'm not arguing that at all, but
so that's kind of the process they went through this year. But yeah, I would encourage you not to just think there's no point in appeal. It's not difficult to do just an informal appeal. You don't even have to ask to be heard by the board of review. They'll review the numbers for you. If you've seen a significant increase that you do not think is representative of market value, you can submit appraisals.
I'm not saying that. It is, I'm sure it is representative of the market value, but then your assessed value keeps going up and then you're paying taxes on that assessed value. I'm not arguing that it's, because they just sold a house south of us and yeah, it's worth that, but the tax rate just keeps going up. And then when I hear you guys say it's the assessor's fault, the assessor says, that they reach out to this guy. I've gone to the eggs and issues and you talk to the state representatives and they put it back on you guys, to be honest with you. And then everybody pushes it to the state. So you got this.
Set the levy rate.
The levy rate's based on the assessment value, the valuations. Because I do the tax stuff for Newark Township and I get valuation forms every year. And we set the local fire and cemetery rates based on that valuations, and those go up every year. And we have a flat line amount we can assess, the levy rate, but your value is always going up. Kind of what Nikki said, it's you guys lower the rate, but the assessed value keeps going up. So I guess you just feel pretty helpless, I guess. And it's just,
I would be happy to explain it, but I've talked about it enough. I'm sure one of these gentlemen would like to tell you about their knowledge.
I know the state of Iowa has been notorious for all of a sudden, the Department of Revenue says your taxes are going to go up 10%. And our assessor has fought that many times in the past where they've just come out of the blue and say, well, this is what we need and this is what you're going to raise it to. Yeah, there's plenty of blame to pass around, but we're kind of stuck in the middle and it's always easy to point fingers, but.
So then based on this school board stuff or what you talked about, I have another question. So on this form that we got, it says urban resident and then rural resident. It talks about current property tax rate. And I just have a question because I don't understand. Current tax rate, effective rate, proposed tax rate. It looked like those go down. But then underneath, it says reasons proposed property tax exceeds the current property tax. I don't get that. If those went down, why are you saying there's increases due to rollbacks, cost of living, insurance increases, general basic, general supplemental, and rural basic levels? I don't get why it looks like they went down.
I'll
but
comment on
then
that.
it's-
So,
I just didn't
so
understand.
I did put the increases due to rollbacks, cost of living and insurance because of the commercial going up. And I had talked to Angie, the assessor, about listing the rollbacks. And she agreed there, but our general basic, our general supplemental and our rural basic levies did decrease. So I wanted to make sure that was added because a lot of people are going to see more of the residential on the letters where it's going to show a decrease. So I had to kind of put both because the commercial ones are going to get an increase, but the residential are going to get decreased.
I guess my last comment is I don't think you should have to borrow money to pay your property taxes like that gentleman did. Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name's Dick Holst. I live in Deer Creek Township. I own land in Deer Creek and Jackson Township. And I've got this assessment here where I live. And I live in a house that was built in 1900. And the assessment is 354,990 on 39 acres. And I took the 39 acres and divided it back into the 354,990, and I come up with a figure of $91,023 an acre assessment. It's kind of ridiculous, I think.
That's
Are
what
they,
need
are
to
you,
appeal that.
huh?
You need to appeal that.
Are you, the ones I've gotten so far, are you gonna do that to all the land or just acreages?
You'll have to talk to the assessor about that. I'm not real familiar on exactly how they go about doing that. But that's what the appeal process is for.
Is that $90,000 average across the acres? Like you have a house that sits on, I'm guessing, an acre of that parcel, and then you're dividing that valuation amongst the entire property?
A house and machine shed and grain bins and hoop buildings on there.
Okay.
But I don't think they're worth $91,000 an acre.
Yeah, that'd be something you'd have definitely appeal and go through that process with the board of review and do what you can to get that down.
Okay. All right, thank you.
What else?
I definitely get the frustrations of the high assessments. It's not easy. I mean, I think this board, the five of us, have really worked diligently alongside Crystal to get our levy rate down as much as we can in accordance with the assessments that keep continuing to rise. Obviously, we feel inflation too at the county level. Labor increases cost every year for the county. So do our, trucks and property maintenance and everything else too. So we feel that, but I feel dropping countywide rates from, 7.1 to 6.7 in the current environment we're in is, I believe, good progress. Like Darren mentioned, I think the state legislator will have some type of property reform, tax reform this year. Don't know what that'll look like, but definitely may be a help, especially to the seniors, and even hopefully young people. I mean, right now in the country, it's hard for young people to afford homes, and it's a big issue. So definitely feel it, but I feel that this board's trying to be as responsible as we can under the current conditions and trying to be reasonable and fair to the taxpayer.
Anyone else? Nothing? At the risk of over-explaining, I know I did this last year, because I think there's some confusion. The assessment process and the tax levy process are two very different processes. And it's not to assign blame one place or another. The assessment is what the value of your land, what the value of your home is worth. I'm looking up my personal property, my assessed value. I have a very small little house. It's like maybe 100, I don't know, it's 100 and something $1,000. Assessed value, I don't know. Anyway, the assessed value is what the professionals think your house is worth in today's market. So what do they think my house is going to sell for if I choose to sell it today? And the people at Vanguard, the people in the assessor's office go out, they look at my house, they go, yeah, it looks great. It was, made in this time. It has a new roof. So they're going to say, okay, it's going to be assessed for more than it was last year because she put a new roof on it. Thank you, hailstorm. So it's going to be assessed at more. If I say, no, I think my house is actually worth less than that, I can then go to the assessor's office. I can say, Angie, I don't think this is right. And she has the ability to say, you know what, Nikki, you're right. We'll lower it. If she doesn't, then I have the opportunity to go to the Board of Review, which is a group of people here in town, and say to them, I think they made a mistake. I think my house is worth this, but I have to go and say, these are the reasons why. And I have to give them proof because of this and this and this, because my roof is nice, but my basement is a mess, or whatever the reason, right? I have to give them proof. If they might say, Nikki, you're right, we'll lower it. They could still say, Nikki, you're wrong. We still think it holds up. I then, like County Attorney Driscoll said, still have the opportunity to appeal. But at some point, they're either going to say, yep, we're going to lower it, or no, we got to keep it. Now, something that we did not touch upon today is that the assessor's office has to give the full Webster County assessments to the state. They have to say, this is what Webster County assessments are worth. The state then can take a look and say, we think you're off base. We think you're wrong. And we are going to put a flat rate on everything instead of trusting the people who live and work here to say, Nikki's house is worth this much. Daphne's house is worth this much. Jamie's house is worth this much. My house went up 6%. Nathan's house went up 10%. Darren's house went up apparently 56%.
Over $100,000.
Right? They could then say, forget that. Everybody's house is going up 25%. Well, is that fair to me? No. But they have the right to do that. So the assessor's office is trying as hard as they possibly can to make things as fair as humanly possible. So does it stink when your house goes up 56%? Yep, sure does. So that's the assessor's part. Our part, working with Crystal, who's our budget and finance director, is to look at all of the budgets. Every department heads comes to us and says, this is what we need to spend money on. This is what is a mandatory. We need to be able to fix our roads. We need to be able to buy equipment. We need to be able to pay our employees. We need to be able to provide public safety. We need to be able to fix the law enforcement center, for crying out loud. Supervisor Thode knows that better than anybody because he's in charge of that building. We need to be able to do all of these things, knowing that the cost of inflation is making the cost of goods go up. Jamie knows that more than anybody right now. And so we do all of that while trying to be fair to our employees and give them, it's a 3% raise this year. We're lucky to be able to do that and still make sure that we're being fair to the citizens and ourselves. I pay taxes here too. I don't want to pay a ton of taxes either. And make sure that we're able to take that levy, which is the percentage of your assessed value, and lower it so that even if your assessed value goes up, it's not going, your taxes aren't going to go up as much as they could have, because we're going to lower that percentage amount. You understand what I'm saying? So that's our role. The five of us here, and Crystal, that's our role, is to take that percentage and try to make it that much easier for everybody involved here in Webster County. And sometimes we can't do it, sir, with our commercial for whatever reason, sometimes, and we'll look into that for you if we can. But we're trying really hard to be able to do that because, you know, my mom's on a fixed income. A lot of folks here are on fixed incomes. We don't want our property taxes going up either. And as County Attorney Driscoll said, there's a lot of legislation that has happened over the past 5 years that limits our ability to grow. And then there's like 3 bills currently in the state legislature that are also going to limit our ability to grow. And I'm not gonna, I will. I'll place a little blame in the state legislature, but they're doing what they can because they're hearing from people the same as we're hearing from people that property taxes are too high. So everybody involved is trying to make things better. We're doing the best that we can. But what we're talking about today is the levy. And I will say that I'm very proud of the work that Crystal has done this year. I know Austin in particular, who cannot be here, he's in Washington, D.C. right now, worked very closely with Crystal to make sure that our percentage, our levy went down this year, particularly for residential. And we're proud of that. It's super frustrating when your assessment goes up. So it feels like your taxes do go up. But that is, and I don't know if I've missed anything with that process, but I wanted to make sure to explain the assessment process versus the levy process as it relates to property taxes. Go right up. Yep.
Explanation, and I appreciate what you did for the residential levy. But to this gentleman who has a commercial property, I come to a lot of the Board of Supervisors meeting and I hear about economic development and the trails and all that we do to draw people to our area for economic growth. But if you beat down the businesses with a higher commercial tax rate so that he can't even stay in business, and I know, Nate, you have a business, I don't understand. I mean, I just would appreciate if you could look at that for these folks, because I like the trails and they're great, but my mom's 87 years old and she lives in rural Callender. She's not driving to town and walk on the trails, but yet her assessment and taxes so she's paying for that. The elderly aren't using it. And I get it's a nice deal, but there's a lot of people paying for that aren't reaping the benefits. So yeah, but grant's not free money. We all know that. It comes from somebody. Yeah, but yeah, it is ultimately.
Well,
Because you pay federal taxes, so it does
but-
come
but
from
it
you.
doesn't come from your
I know
property
that.
taxes,
I know
which
that.
we're
That's a
talking
different,
about
that's
right
a
now.
different subject, but I'm kind of getting in this guy that has a business's corner.
Yep.
And can we look at those too? Because I think you're going to drive companies, potentially small businesses, out of the area if they have to borrow money to pay their property taxes. You know,
Which is a great point, and that's why we do these. That's
Perfect.
why we have these hearings. So
thank you. I appreciate you listening to me ramble.
always, Daphne.
Additionally, just one more comment too, the assessor's office always runs 1 year ahead of where we're at in the current fiscal year. So the first bill for the new assessments will be not until the fall of 2027. So just FYI on that as well.
All right, I just, since we've mentioned them, the bills that are up in the legislature right now, they're SSB 3034, SSB 3001, and HSB 596. So if you want to research further on that, there's some differences in here. For instance, since it's been brought up, they're going to put, the governor's bill proposes putting an assessment limitation on commercial property, tiering it up at 250K and above. So that might be something you want to look into to see if you want to more actively contact your legislators to have them support that one. A lot of these are also looking at, because I know they've been brought up, making changes to how schools are funded and taking it less out of property taxes and putting it more directly in your hands. Again, I would just strongly suggest that you research what the state's getting ready to do to the county, because that will impact you in the near future. And they've got 3 varying different bills up right now. So
Want to make one comment about the commercial real quick. Just for last fiscal year to this fiscal year. Last fiscal year's commercial urban taxpayer, the increase was 26.89%. This year, it's only 4.97. So we are in the right direction. We are going in the right direction even for commercial too, and trying to do what we can. It's taking some time. So
Any other comments?
So you know what how much the assessments went up for countywide roughly?
I don't know exactly.
But so you get that and then you decide how to adjust the levy for your budgets.
And try to figure out what everybody needs, what we can get by with. And then we come up with that, or I should say, she comes up with the number of what we need. Crystal's done a great job of trying to reduce things down.
So you know how much assessments have gone up as a whole, and then you set your levy to make your budget. Is that what you're
We
saying?
try to, yeah, we work with the numbers we're given. And then we've tried to figure out what kind of finances we have and what we're gonna have to come up with. If the state legislators come back with that 2% of what they've been talking about, that's gonna put us in a bind next year.
That's my next question is how much, based on what it is now, how much more revenue is the county going to get?
Less next year, if we go with 2%.
I mean, what I'm saying is everybody's assessment, I'm on his boat, my house went up 65%. So even though the levy went down, we're paying more. So my question, how much more money is the county revenue going to be?
Answer that question. Can you, Crystal? Do you have an idea of what the difference is? Anything else? Okay, I'll close the public meeting at 9:37 a.m. Is there anything on the board here that needs further discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. A motion is second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 We are adjourned. Thank you.